Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. It means we're brought to you by Immense Networks, Cloud IT Management. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Got Jordan Kitchens and Braxton Rizzuto back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're hanging out. We got plenty to do. Glen West in 30 minutes. Sharif Ishak in 90. We'll talk Tigers with Glen West, baseball transfer portal, basketball, eligibility concerns, maybe a little football as well with Glen. And then, of course, Saints with Sharif coming up at 2:30. I've got plenty of other things I'd like to hit on as well. Athletic directors around the country saying they're not playing Texas Tech in any sports. Does that matter? We'll discuss it briefly at the end of the hour. And ESPN came up with college football's future power rankings through 2027. I've got where LSU stands, which should be pretty quick to cover. And then where every team on their conference schedule stands, which I think is a little bit interesting to see how that conference schedule could shake out. So we'll do that at the top of hour number 2 at 2 o'clock. So plenty to do. Hang in there with us. Let's start with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
The baseball transfer portal is where we're going to start, and it's interesting to watch this unfold. This time last year, we were knee-deep in LSU, Arkansas for the opener of the College World Series on Saturday night. I was 2 days from catching a flight to Omaha, and the vibes were very, very different around here, and we weren't really paying attention to the transfer portal. And keep in mind, I wrote this on LouisianaSports.net earlier today. Zach York and Trent Caraway were both sizable pickups for LSU in the transfer portal. Despite what they did this year, it was a big deal when LSU got them. Do you know what day that happened? I went back and looked it up. Those two committed to LSU on the same day, July 15th. So we're sitting here on June 9th. So anybody that's pushing any panic buttons, I would avoid that for the time being. Anybody who's just desperately seeking news, I understand it. But you understand how this plays out. There is a time frame here, and there are going to be the guys that jump in, have an idea what they want to do, knock out a couple of quick visits, and boom, commit. We'll talk about a couple of those coming up here shortly. But there are also guys that are going to take their time. Like Trent Caraway was in Omaha last year. He was at Oregon State. They were in the College World Series. He jumped in the portal. So that type of thing happens. Like Mikey Ryan played for LSU's team last year and jumped in the transfer portal. So we're still not even to saturation with the transfer portal where everybody's in. It's just a slower process for us this time around at LSU because LSU's season was over 3 weeks ago. So I have some thoughts on the way things are going and some significant question marks that LSU's going to have to address and some names along those lines. But let's talk about a couple of commitments that have happened here in the last 24 hours. One, Brody Trosclair has committed to Tennessee. Brody Trosclair is from the home of Thibodeau area. He was at Northwestern State last year. He was the Southland Conference Freshman of the Year. He had the surgery on his elbow that did not replace the UCL. It repaired it. It's called the brace surgery. And his season was cut short in April. He feels like he's going to be able to pitch next year. He took a visit to LSU. He took a visit to Fayetteville. He took a visit to Knoxville. He's committed to Tennessee, despite the fact that Tennessee doesn't have a pitching coach. But Brody Trosclair has decided to commit to Tennessee. He is off the market and a guy that certainly had a lot of LSU ties. One, he's from Louisiana. Two, he played college baseball in Louisiana. Three, he visited LSU. So that's obviously a guy we were going to talk about and a guy that is going to go to Tennessee. So he's off the board. Jake Souders is also off the board. That is the right-handed hitting outfielder from Samford. He is going to go to Mississippi State. He announced his commitment earlier today. Those two guys, while Trosclair was much more closely connected to LSU, Souders, I don't believe, was. They both address needs that LSU has, and certainly they're not coming to LSU. LSU needs left-handed pitching in a bad way because right now your starting pitching options as it stands today are William Schmidt, right-handed, Kason Evans, right-handed, Cooper Moore, right-handed, Marcos Paz, right-handed, Reagan Ricken, right-handed, and Landon Hood from Gonzaga, right-handed. So everybody you've got with a significant chance to be in your starting rotation today is right-handed. That doesn't count the signing class. That doesn't count Danny Lockenmeyer or Santiago Garcia or Ethan Plog or guys that figure to be on the team next year but are left-handed but not necessarily a starting rotation caliber guys. So you're looking for left-handed pitching. We'll address that in a second. You also need outfielders. Right now, William Patrick is the only outfielder you got. Derek Curiel was mocked 10th in a thing I saw today. Not coming back. Despite what he sat at this desk and said to Matt that it sucks and he'd love to be back and chase a championship with the Tigers and all that kind of stuff. He's a top 15 draft pick. He's not going to be back. And Jake Brown took a curtain call at senior day. I'm going to take that as a sign that Jake Brown's not coming back either. He's also a likely first-round pick. So you don't have any outfielders. And Souders is an outfielder. What you also need, like left-handed pitching, is left-handed hitting. Jay Johnson has said this on many occasions. He learned from Augie Garrido, the famous Texas coach, that you build your roster around left-handed pitching, left-handed hitting. Well, you don't have a lot of left-handed pitching right now. And as I look at this lineup that's coming back, Omar Cerna, right-handed. Cade Arambidi, right-handed. William Patrick, right-handed. Yeah, Jack Ruckert hits left-handed, and of course, Mason Braun hits left-handed. But you're pretty right-handed, and you went and got Dawson Park, and he hits right-handed on the infield. John Pearson hits right-handed. So you don't have a lot of left-handed presence in your lineup besides Jack Ruckert and Mason Braun. You need some left-handed bat speed. And the thought was, man, look at this guy in the portal. This is one of the top guys. Can you get him? And that's Bino Waters from Notre Dame. It is my understanding, and nothing's been signed, nothing is finalized, and y'all know how recruiting goes, right? If you go to the football side of things, you had a football commitment last weekend who tweeted out, "Go Tigers," and then 4 hours later it flipped to Miami. So I understand that things can change, but my understanding right now, and it's what we're hearing at LouisianaSports.net, is that Bino Waters is very, very, very likely to be a Texas Longhorn. So you're probably not getting him. He is the best left-handed hitting outfielder on the market. He would cross two boxes for you, left-handed hitter and outfielder. You're trying to cross both of those off. So you're not getting Trosclair, you're not getting Souders, and you're probably not getting Bino Waters. The good news here, and I mean this not as a sunshine pumper, like in reality, the portal is very deep this year. There is some real high-end talent in the transfer portal. I'm not suggesting it's Paul Skeens and Tommy White, but I am suggesting there are some real difference makers in the transfer portal that LSU has an opportunity to get. I look first and foremost at pitching because I think LSU's got to overhaul its pitching. And I'm telling you that I think they need left-handed pitching. I like William Schmidt. I like Kason Evans. I like Marcos Paz. I like Reagan Ricken. I think Landon Hood's got a chance to be a stud. I'd like somebody to throw with their left hand. And the best left-handed hitter, a pitcher that I can see in the transfer portal right now is Caden Succi from UConn. He's just finished his sophomore year, had an awesome season, was the Big East pitcher of the year for UConn. I understand that's a lower level of competition. But this year, he pitched 82 and a third innings, struck out 94, and walked 23. That is a strike thrower. That's a bat misser. That's the profile of a guy that I'd like to see LSU go out and land. He does not throw 97 miles an hour. He throws 92 miles an hour. But that's firm enough. If LSU can add a mile an hour or two to that and get to 93, 94 from the left side, a guy that walked 23 last year, that sounds very, very good to me. I like the sound of that a lot. So Caden Succi is not a guy I confirm that's been visiting. I cannot confirm he's interested in LSU. I'm just scouring the transfer portal and telling you what I see in the transfer portal. I also did a little bit of digging today on the internet, just kind of looking around at guys in the portal to see if there was anything that jumped out at me. And I do like the profile of a recent portal entrant from Michigan. He's a left-handed pitcher. He's got swing and miss stuff, had a really good year as a freshman in Ann Arbor, and I think could potentially make some sense for LSU if he is at all interested in being at LSU. And again, I can't confirm that at this point. But you're talking about a solid left-handed arm from Michigan that I tend to think would be a good fit in Baton Rouge if LSU can lure him in. And I'm not trying to plant names here and there, because I know guys are on campus. I will tell you this in my digging around, LSU is playing the portal close to the vest this year. They are not interested in a lot of people tweeting out who's visiting from LSU, who's close to committing. If you'll notice, you're not seeing a lot of guys that are tweeting out pictures of their official visit to LSU. If y'all notice that, are you on Twitter? You don't see that? So I think that Shane Brenham, a left-hander from Michigan, is a guy that I really like. I think that he's got a chance to be a difference maker at the SEC level if he decides to make that move. But LSU's playing things close to the vest, and that's why you're not getting a lot of reporting on this. I feel like in years gone by, we have had a little bit of better of idea who's on campus and who's not. Right now, they're playing it close to the vest. But I think that Suchi and Brenham are two left-handers that LSU would really like. They would be really good fits. The last guy I want to talk about, and it's a name we mentioned last week, but I want to revisit it because I haven't heard anything concrete on him, which leads me to believe his decision-making process is still open, and that's Jason Walks from Tulane, who is an outfielder and a left-handed bat. And he had a great 2 years at Tulane. He hit a home run off Grant Fontenot at the box. He had 3 hits in that game. He is a really, really good player. Now, he's from South Florida. He's going to visit Miami. He's going to visit Florida State. He's going to visit Florida, and apparently LSU's on the list as well. He knows South Louisiana well after 2 years at Tulane. So that would check another box. The point being, yeah, it stinks that you're not getting Cross Clare, who we'll see how healthy he is next year, but that's a guy you would have liked to add. Yeah, it stinks that you're not getting some of these guys like Bino Waters, who looks like a heck of a player. But there are still really good options in the transfer portal, and there will be more to come. So Jackson Hotchkiss is a right-handed hitting outfielder from Washington, who I think is a heck of a bat they could add. There are still a lot of opportunities out there for LSU to add, but it's moving slowly, as you might expect. And I thought there would be a commitment or two over the weekend. There was not. There were certainly visitors over the weekend. We can confirm that. We're just not able to scrape up a lot of names because LSU wants to keep things close to the vest. And you can understand that. In this era of social media, a lot of guys want to be quick to fire off videos and this and that. And we've seen Instagram stories and Twitter pictures of guys walking onto the box field for the first time and like, could this be home? Or like, none of that's happening. LSU, I think, is by design keeping a lot of things close to the vest, and we'll see as things continue to leak out. But there's still options. LSU just hasn't landed one since last week. 2 really good ones in Dawson Park and Landon Hood, but nothing further to add to that at this point right now. So that's a look at the transfer portal. I've got a write-up up at louisianasports.net if you want to go check that out for free. You can do that. I'll continue to stay on top of that as much as I possibly can as we move forward here with the transfer portal cycle. Omaha is upon us here in 3 days as we'll get started from Charles Schwab Field on Friday at 1 o'clock with a 5-team field of SEC teams out of the 8 teams there in the College World Series. All right, let's step aside. We will come back. We will dive into the New Orleans Saints here. It is a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love to remind you about our friends over at Auctioner. They did a great job all May long of reminding y'all about Stroke Awareness Month. And in June, they're just trying to remind you that whether you're an athlete or trying to stay active, Auctioner Andrews Orthopedic Sports Medicine Institute can help get you moving and keep you moving. You've got to have access to the highest levels of specialized care, nationally renowned expertise, the latest in equipment, modern facilities, including a convenient walk-in orthopedic clinic right there at the Elite Training Complex on Burbank. If you've driven by it on Burbank and you see the big football field with the goalposts out there, like, that is it. It's a walk-in orthopedic clinic, and if you need care fast, you can stop right in. From the field to recovery, Auctioner Andrews Institute is there to help you move your healing forward, get you back to what you love doing. It may be playing with the grandkids. It may be back on the ancient athletes field. It may be back on the high school field. It may be just back to the gym. Just check them out at auctioner.org/BROrtho. That's our friends over at Auctioner.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Our Tuesday shows every week brought to you by Immense Networks Cloud IT Management. Have you had your system go down? If you're out of business and the entire thing crashes, that can be really costly. It can be costly, 1, to repair it. It can be costly, 2, in the time that you lose when you're down, when you're offline, when you're unable to work. if that's happened to you, check in with Immense. What Immense does is they monitor your IT situation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're doing things proactively to make sure that doesn't happen. If you're reactive from an IT perspective, you're always behind the game. Y'all know the businesses that you've been a part of where you've always got an issue in the IT department stretched thin, and they're always jumping from one computer to the next trying to fix this person's and that person's, and this person can't work, and they're frustrated because you're trying to get to that's an inefficient way to do things, right? Let Immense Networks Cloud IT Management come in and proactively work with you to make sure your information technology is up to standard so that you're running smoothly at all times. That's what they're willing to do for you. If you've got an IT department that's either stretched thin or you've got a third party that you're not thrilled with, reach out to Immense. They've been in the market for 20 years here in the Baton Rouge area. They're small enough to give you that personal touch, but they're big enough for big business. So reach out to them at immense.net and just see if they're a fit for you. If you're between 50 and 100 employees, that's kind of their sweet spot. They'd love to help you with your IT. It's Immense Networks Cloud IT Management, online at immense.net, immense.net. This segment we're going to do here, I want you to take it with the appropriate June grain of salt. This is not meant to be hard-hitting. It's obviously not going to be exactly accurate. It's a take it for what it's worth type segment here from ESPN.com, okay? It is their best effort, and I find it fascinating. I don't find it a religion, but I think it's fascinating to look at objective numbers that ESPN puts on football. And they've done that with the NFL. And I want to go through a few things. We'll start with the FPI. It runs off a zero baseline. So the Rams are the top of the NFL at plus 5.6. And the Dolphins are at the bottom of the NFL with a minus 5.8. So from the best team in the NFL to the worst team in the NFL is 5.6 on the positive to negative 5.8. You understand that's where the scale is. The Saints are at a minus 2.7. There are only 7 teams worse on the FPI than New Orleans entering this season. Now, they break it down into offense and defense as well. The Saints' defense is about league average. It's a minus 0.4, so about right at league average. And the Saints' defense late last season played well. Now, you look at that defense with potentially not having Cam Jordan, who had 10 sacks on that defense. You take away Demario Davis, who had a Pro Bowl caliber season last year, obviously. You add Caden Ellis, and then you shuffle some things on the outside at cornerback, and you understand that safety is going to look a little bit different because you had an injury right out of the chute. Sanker is going to come down and play slot corner, we think. But there's a lot of the same DNA of that defense. Brzee, Chase Young, Granderson. You got at linebacker Stutzman filling in, but you still have Pete Werner there. Kool-Aid was there most of the season. You still got Quincy Riley, and you still got Reed at safety. Like, there's a lot of the same DNA that was there. And you've gone and made some additions at edge that you hope are high ceiling that you can bring in there. And there are some changes, but let's call it 80% of that defense is similar to what it was. You hope that your younger guys grow up. You've moved on from a couple of guys who were older. Okay, league average defense, I think, is a fair thing to say. If they overperform a little bit, maybe you bump up a notch or two. The offense is interesting because they've got the offense for the Saints at a minus 2.3. And I can actually sort the league by that category. And you can look that only the Cardinals, Titans, Dolphins, Jets, Raiders, and Browns rate worse offensively than the Saints. And I think that's interesting because we know the Saints' offense was not good last year. They were awful for about 9 weeks when Rattler was in there. And when Shuck took over, they were bad at wide receiver, banged up at running back, and bad at offensive line. So you understand that it's not a stretch to suggest the Saints will outperform last year with a quarterback in his second year and a full season, with right now a healthier group up front, with a brand new cast of characters on the outside when you consider 3 draft picks, a guy you traded for in Polk last year that was unavailable, Olave healthy, and Vele for potentially a full season and not a month. It's a completely different wide receiving core. So there's significant upside on the Saints offense to outperform that number. So you could theoretically significantly outperform your FPI number, which is close to the bottom of the NFL. But less important than that, because we know what the roster says, I also wanted to look at the objective data that they've got on maybe the most important thing on this entire sheet on the website that I'm looking at, and it's strength of schedule. The Saints' strength of schedule is 30th. 30th. There's 2 easier. They say the Bengals have an easier schedule, and they say the Lions have an easier schedule. Both of those teams way underperformed last year. But you see the path to this thing going in the right direction. It's the offense outperforming that minus 2.3, the defense being about league average, and the schedule manifesting the way ESPN thinks it is, and then all of a sudden, you've got something cooking. Now, the other objective data that they put together, not sure how they came up with this, but we'll just work off of it. It's June, as I mentioned. It's all with a grain of salt. None of this is sworn testimony. It's the way the numbers work out in ESPN's machine. But they have playoff odds, your odds to make the playoff. And I went through the NFC Souths. Top of the league, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody. It's Tampa. Tampa is at a 47.3% chance to make the postseason. Not win the division, make the postseason. Second in the division, behind Tampa, at 33.7% to make the playoffs, is Atlanta. They've got the Falcons there. We don't even know for sure who the Falcons quarterback is, but they're at 33.7%. So you got Tampa at 47. That's about a coin flip. You've got Atlanta at 33.7. That is almost right on the number. Well, it is right on the number, basically, if you round up on the decimals, to a third of the time they'd make the playoffs. And then you got the Saints at 23.8. We'll round up to 24. That's a quarter, right? 1-4 shot to make the playoffs. And then you've got Carolina at the bottom with 19.8. Carolina is sitting there with the first place schedule, which they rate as the 13th most difficult schedule. So that's well in front of where New Orleans is. And I don't think anybody's buying what Carolina did last year. So just looking at ESPN's objective data, you look at the Saints and they say, okay, your defense is fine. Your offense stunk last year. You got a bunch of really unproven pieces. Shuck is unproven. Olave's proven, but everything behind him is not. Vele, not really. Certainly Jordan Tyson's not. Certainly Jalen Polk's not. Certainly, you're looking at Lance. He's not. You got an offensive line that was not very good last year because McCoy's been hurt for 2 years straight, and you've got tackles who are trying to grow up and a bad right guard. So you were bad on offense last year, and we'll reflect that in the rankings. But if the Saints can overperform on offense, which we all think they are, I don't think there's anybody in South Louisiana that doesn't think the Saints are going to be better on offense this year than they were last year. If they are not, something has gone horribly wrong, namely probably an injury to the quarterback. But if they are reasonably healthy, they will not be fully healthy. If they're reasonably healthy, they will outperform last year. And if the defense is about the same, and you tell me the schedule is the third easiest in the league, and you tell me that nobody in the division is a 50% shot to make the playoffs, keep in mind, there are plenty of teams that are better than 50-50 shot to make the playoffs, according to this ESPN poll. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 teams. Half the league is better than a 50% chance to make the playoffs, and nobody in the NFC South is. 15 teams are better than 50% shot, and nobody in the South. So if you tell me league average defense, an offense that needs to perform better, okay, I got that. It's third easiest schedule in a division where nobody's in the top 15 teams in the league in terms of playoff odds. Okay, I'll take my chances. I will take my chances. That's what I draw from this. Again, it's ESPN analytics. It's not meant to be gospel. And I'm not here to suggest that they've got all the answers. They get things wrong, I'm confident, every single year. The Patriots would have been nowhere near the top of anybody's list at this time last year. We get it. Same thing with Washington last year. We talked about it yesterday with Shefty's projection. But the roadmap for the Saints is pretty clear. And the roadmap for the Saints is not all that far-fetched. I kind of like where they sit right now. And if this is a grow-up year with an easy schedule, so be it. You're counting on this being an era with Kellen Moore, an era with Tyler Shuck, an era with Olave and Jordan Tyson and Banks and Fuaga and Sanker and Riley and the guys you've built around up front on the defensive side. So I'm okay with where they sit right now, and I think the Saints are in a pretty good position relative to where they were this time 1 year ago. 12 months ago, it was ugly. Right now, it's not. It's reasonable. And I kind of like what this data suggests. Jordan?
I think the Saints are in a particular position because at the end of the day, if they can just get Shuck out, he doesn't have to be too great, but if he can just show marginal improvement, and not saying a lot, just marginal improvement, and you can have what the defense showed you the last 5 games of last year. I know they didn't really play nobody. It wasn't the world beaters like the Titans and I think the Dolphins. We lost the Dolphins game, but like the Giants. You didn't really play much down the stretch. But if Shuck can just a marginal improvement, and you get that defensive effort a year or two in that Staley, I guess, system, sky's the limit. I just don't understand all the hype around the Bucs. I get it; they're the best team that we have to offer in NFC South on paper.
Hype is relative. It's 47%. I told you there's 15 teams with a better chance to make the playoffs.
But every time we see it, they're always like
they are always in the top.
They're always in the lead.
And in the same vein, no one believes in Carolina. Everyone thinks that was smoke and mirrors.
I mean, come on, man. Bryce Young, nobody's going to think he's going to take that leap.
They were running for $250 a game for like a month, and they went into Green Bay and won. It was weird. It was a weird deal.
What was the running back name? Rico Dowell. Yeah. That was a running back name.
Yeah, he
Rico
was running
Dowell.
for 180 a pop.
He had like a 200-yard game in there, I think. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest believer in the Bucs. I think they're going to come back down to earth. I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be able to recreate the little special magic he had like the first 5 weeks of the season. Again, I guess it's more of a homer take that I'm more highly on the Saints, obviously, but I just don't see the hype in all these other teams in NFC South, especially the Bucs. I don't get it.
We'll see. Glen West, Talking Tigers next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Sometimes a remodel's not just for looks, it's for functionality as well. Because safety can be a big, big issue in the bathroom, especially as folks age. So if there's someone in your life who is aging and you feel like could be in a hazardous situation at home, do what you can to mitigate against that risk. David Duvall and his team can help you put in non-slip floors. They can do guardrails in slippery areas. They can do walk-in tubs that are more comfortable and safer. They can do showers with benches in them. All these things can be quick and can be incredibly beneficial to mitigate risk in the bathroom. Maybe you haven't thought about that. Maybe it's something you should think about for a loved one in your life. Give David a call or check him out online at onebathandclosets.com. They'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. I can promise you that. You want financing? They've got it 0% up to 18 months, same as cash. David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. They're online at onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. ESPN has got some power rankings out for college football entering the 2026 season. We'll get to those in 25 minutes at the top of hour number 2. Sharif Ishak here in an hour at 2:30. Glen West from On 3 is the Bengal Tiger, good enough to join us on Tuesday. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing great, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing all right. You noticing it's a little quiet over there at Alec Box Stadium? Not a lot of information leaking out. We used to see guys on visits sending out social media posts and showing their picture-taking ceremonies and whatnot, and we're getting very little at this point from over there at LSU. It seems like it's by design.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's pretty cutthroat, I think, between a lot of the teams that LSU is competing for some of these players for, and so they've got a couple. They've got Landon Hood, the right-handed pitcher. They've got Dawson Park, the shortstop or a middle infielder. But yeah, no, I think we're all just kind of waiting for that next kind of round of commitments to come, and I would expect left-handed pitching, outfield, and probably a third baseman or another infielder to be in that mix.
What do you think of the first two additions? Start with offense with Dawson Park.
Yeah, I think a really solid pickup. Somebody that hit for average last year at Texas State, but also is a pretty solid defender, and somebody that I think is going to be able to slide into shortstop if Stephen Milam goes. And if by the off chance Stephen Milam is back, LSU will be ecstatic for that. But also, I think they'll have a second baseman in Dawson Park as well. So he's somebody that can fill a couple different roles for LSU, but really like his glove. I think he hit 13 home runs and 50 RBIs, so we'll see kind of how the power and all that stuff translates to the SEC. But a really solid overall player to go out there and get at least one of the infield spots taken care of.
How do you feel about Jack Ruckert and John Pearson entering 2027?
I feel good, probably a little bit better about Ruckert, just in terms of just what we saw the last month of the season. I thought was pretty encouraging for him, especially defensively. And he was somebody that, Jay mentioned to us multiple times, like, him and William Patrick are the two guys that got a lot of the playing time from the freshman group down the stretch. And he kind of said that in the right offense, in the right team, those guys can help LSU win games next year. And so, I think, Ruckert, whether or not he wins that position, I think is still going to be up for some debate depending on who LSU brings in here over the next couple months. But I feel pretty good about him being a contributor. Pearson at third base, I think is going to be in a competition there. He's a pretty powerful bat at times, but the defense is going to be something he's going to have to really work on this offseason to really secure that spot. So I think, if LSU is able to hang on to both of them, I think that's great. But I think both of those guys are going to be competing for those two spots going forward.
And then Landon Hood, the right-handed pitcher from Gonzaga, the other ad that we were talking about there at the top.
Yeah, no, Hood's a really solid pitcher, really has a lot of potential. I think his fastball is up to 96. He's got good movement with his off-speed pitches. I think he throws 3 or 4 pitches as well. And so, he was a guy that was kind of a longer relief pitcher, I think, for the most part for Gonzaga. He started some, but, throws a lot of strikes. I think he struck out 78, only walked about 20. And so, somebody that has a couple years of eligibility too before he's draft eligible. And so, somebody that even if he doesn't earn a starting job this year or this coming year, will certainly be in that mix, I think, in his third season or his second season with the program, his third season overall. But really solid pickup there. And I think he's going to fill a really meaningful role for LSU next season.
So you mentioned left-handed hitting. You mentioned outfield play and infield play. Is there a name you got your eye on or time frame you're looking at? Maybe somebody that makes some sense for LSU?
Yeah, I think we're still in that kind of discovery phase. I think there was an outfielder that went in. I can't remember his last name. It's Sawyer something.
Solitaire.
Solitaire, yes. I know he played at Kent State and he played LSU this last year. I think that's one. Jay, has kind of a history here recently of bringing in players that LSU has played against in that previous season because they've already done some of the scouting homework on them. And so, if that's a name that they reach out to, I think that would make a lot of sense for maybe one of the outfield spots. I think that they probably need some left-handed pitching, but we just learned that Brody Trosclair is off to Tennessee, so that's a big name that you can cross off the list there. So where do they pivot or where do they turn to next, I think is going to be very interesting there. But you got to add a couple outfielders at least, and you got to get, I think, at least 1 or 2 left-handed arms, and then I think kind of maybe reassess where you're at. But I think that those things hopefully should come to fruition here in the weeks to come, if not days.
Glen West is our guest, senior writer over at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 team, which he joined on June 1st. Joins us on Tuesdays here to talk some Tigers. We talked a lot about the Brendan Sorsby issue over at Texas Tech, and basically anybody can get eligible for anything if they just go see a judge. How do you think that impacts LSU basketball?
Yeah, look, I think I haven't really differed much in my opinion on the international guys. I think a lot of those players that LSU plans to bring aboard are, just going to take some time, but don't have many, legal or rules that they're going to have to kind of jump around. I think they're pretty cut and dry. RJ Lewis is, of course, the one, though, that I think you have to really monitor and keep your eye on here because, look, it looks like LSU is going to do what it can to try to get Lewis eligible, and part of that will probably mean filing a waiver. and the NCAA probably denying him that waiver. And that next step would probably be for LSU to file that injunction. And if they find the right judge, if they find the right guy in the right mood, they make the right case, then, I think anything can happen. I mean, this decision with Sorsby yesterday, I think, kind of evaluated a lot of the things in my mind on just kind of what rules can and can't be broken. And, look, right now there's no rule. If Brendan Sorsby can be eligible to play for Texas Tech, there is no rule that the NCAA has that can't be broken if you find the right judge and you find the right injunction and the right case. So I think LSU is going to have a shot here. I don't know that it's a 50-50 shot or a 70-30 that he doesn't get eligible, but I think the decision yesterday makes it a little bit more of a easier pill to swallow if you're LSU going to bed tonight.
Let me ask you this, Glenn, because you, for your career, have dealt with a lot of message boards. You deal with a lot of LSU fans on a daily basis. It may be an unanswerable question, but I'm just curious your thoughts. How do you think LSU fans will feel if LSU goes to court over Yam Madar and or RJ Lewis, wins, and those guys are on the team, and everybody's hooting and hollering from the outside that this is not how you should put a basketball game? Like, do you think that's going to matter when they get on the floor in the middle of January at Mississippi State, or do you think that it'll put a kind of a stain on the season?
I mean, I don't think it'll put any kind of stain on the season from the LSU fans' perspective. I think they just want to go out and see a really fun, competitive team, and having Yam Mador and RJ Lewis as a part of that team is the best version of that team. And so, look, I think if LSU goes out there and let's say they lose the waiver on Madar, they lose the waiver on Lewis, then I think you'll have a very upset fan base that will point to guys like Brendan Sorsby who are eligible for doing much worse things. And so, I think it'll be interesting to watch that whole process play out. But like I said, I think for a lot of the international guys, and including Madar, I do think that they have a pretty solid case for Madar. It's just going to be with Lewis here. That's a pretty cut and dry rule, and we just saw it with Sorsby that one was broken. We'll see if this pretty cut and dry rule about not being able to play college basketball again after you sign an NBA contract is good too.
We shall see. You can catch him at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 team, all off season long. Glenn is with us on Tuesdays. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks, Hunt.
He is Glenn West with the Bengal Tiger. Let me remind you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC online at FabryChevrolet.com. That's FabryChevrolet.com. The entire inventory is online. So whether you're looking for a new vehicle, they've got them. If you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, they've got those as well. They're all there online. So you can kind of start your buying process right there at FabryChevrolet.com. But highly suggest you go see them on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. They got 2026 Chevy Silverados, 0% APR financing now until the end of the month for 36 months. That's 0%. You're not going to beat that for a new Chevy Silverado. 2026 GMC Sierra, 1500. Those are at 2.9 financing for 72 months. That is 5 years. And if you're looking for something like a Chevy Trailblazer, maybe a Chevy Trax, you can get those for as low as $30,000. So no matter what your price range is, no matter what you're looking for, go to FabryChevrolet.com, sort by make and model, sort by mileage, sort by price. You can do it all there at FabryChevrolet.com, and go by and see him on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. That is Fabry Chevrolet GMC. A thought on, before we go to break, a thought on that. I can only speak for myself, because this is one of those deals where there absolutely is no right or wrong based on your personal feeling. That's not right or wrong. It's just how you feel. As I sit here in June, if LSU goes to court to get RJ Lewis eligible after signing with the Jazz and the Celtics, that will not feel savory to me. Like that will feel wrong to me. I'm not telling you how you should feel. I'm speaking personally, because the only thing I can do in this instance. That will feel wrong to me. However, I also believe I know myself well enough to know that, as I just gave you the hypothetical, when they're out there on January 24th against Mississippi State, I don't think I'm going to think about it. I think I'm just going to see the purple and gold jerseys and go, okay, score more points than the other team. I wish I wasn't that way. I wish I could hold myself to a more ethical standard here. But if we're going to play in the Wild Wild West, where everybody's doing everything, and LSU's going to take advantage of that system, I'm not going to like it when it happens, whether that's in June, July, August, whatever. And I'm probably not going to think about it with 3 minutes left at Alabama. And I don't know how every other LSU fan is going to feel about it. I don't know how, if some people will say, well, I hate that. I just can't put up with that. Or some people say, hell yeah, they got their quarterback eligible for gambling on games. Our guy didn't even play in the G League. Sign him up. I don't know. I'm not in either of those camps. I think I'm in the middle, which is very typical for me. But I will not like it as the process is ongoing. I think I'll just get over it when they tip the ball up. And I think that's Will Wade's job here is to win games, and that's what he's going to do. And I think we're well aware that he's going to do whatever it takes to go try to win games. And, he's done things that got him fired from this school, which now we know was probably a huge mistake, considering that the NCAA can't hold you liable for anything. But he's going to do whatever it takes. And if he thinks that he's got a case here while everybody else is playing former pros, I'm certainly not going to stop him. It's just going to feel weird, right? I don't know. We'll come back and close out the hour. I want to spend a little time talking about the athletic directors say they won't play Texas Tech and see what that can mean. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Go with the local option. The local option when it comes to Generac home standby generators. That's Boudreaux's Electrical Services. You can buy the Generac home standby generator to power your home with a power outage from the big box store. You absolutely can do that. No question. They'll come in and they'll install it, and you may never hear from them again. And I can see an instance where over time, something mechanical goes wrong with that generator. They don't know about it. You don't know about it. The power goes out, and you don't have a generator that's powered because you didn't know anything was wrong. That won't happen with Boudreaux's Electrical Services, because if you go with them for your Generac home standby generator, the local team installs it. The local team monitors it 24/7. So if there's an issue, they become aware of it even before you do. They send a team out to make sure everything's on the up and up. The power goes out, whether it's that afternoon thunderstorm that always rolls through here or worse, a hurricane, and your generator is ready to roll. That's what you need. You need the local touch. So give them a call at 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562. The Gonzales location, fairly new, 225-300-9389. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux have been at this for 40 years. Trust them with your business at Boudreaux's Electrical Services.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Storm season's here, y'all. It's June. LifetimeRoofingLA.com is where you can find my friends at Lifetime Roofing. They'd love to help you out, maybe with a roofing tune-up. Maybe not a whole new roof, maybe a tune-up. You go get that done and make sure that your roof is fortified and ready for storm season, because we know what that can mean in this part of the world. Want a new roof? They can do it. They can help you file a claim if that's necessary, and if you just want to buy one retail, they can do that, and financing options are available, 0% up to 18 months. And Lifetime Roofing is thrilled to offer you a lifetime workmanship warranty. That's obviously on the workmanship. It's a workmanship warranty, but it comes to guarantee those materials as well that are backed by Certainteed, one of the oldest and most trusted names in building materials. So if you need a new roof, need a fortification roof, need a roof inspection to make sure your roof is ready for storm season, check out my friends at Lifetime Roofing, online at lifetimeroofingla.com. The athletic directors are cranky. They're saying they're not going to play Texas Tech, right? And I think that's an interesting thing to say. If you're at Georgia or wherever where you never play Texas Tech, I don't think there's a lot of punch that you're packing with that decree that we're not scheduling Texas Tech in anything. The only athletic directors that can issue something that would mean something is the athletic directors in the Big 12. If the Big 12 athletic directors say, we're not getting on a plane to Lubbock, we're not showing up to play them until something is done about this, well, then maybe you can affect change. Now, I'm not smart enough to know what that means in terms of wins and losses. Are you forfeiting? I don't know how liable you would be to the television contracts that you've signed, where you're supposed to have football games lined up all day Saturday. You're supposed to have basketball games from November through March. I don't know what the implications would be from simply not showing up or not allowing them to come play you at your campus. I think it's a powerful statement if the Big 12 does it, but I'm not confident that they will, because I just think that everybody wants to keep the wheel turning financially, and to keep the wheel turning financially, you just got to go with the status quo. Maybe not. Maybe these guys will stand up and do something about it. But what you hear from teams in the Big Ten and the SEC doesn't really matter. Texas Tech can find other schools to play that aren't in the Big 12, that aren't in the Big Ten and the SEC. They cannot not play conference games. That destroys everything. So I don't know whether they can pull this off or not. I don't know how serious they are or if they're bluffing. I don't know. But it is clearly reaching a tipping point with some people. Conference realignment stunk for some people. They figured it out. NIL, transfer portal, coaches don't like it. They figure it out. This is getting profanity-laced tirades in the media. This is getting athletic directors to issue statements about canceling games. It appears to me to be affecting some change and stirring up more emotion. If the Big 12 athletic directors can get together and pull that off, they may be able to do something. I don't have confidence that's going to happen. I'm going to bet the chalk, which is everybody playing everybody, until I see differently. I haven't seen that yet. We'll see. ESPN.com came up with their power rankings. What does LSU's schedule look like in football for 2026? We'll do that after SportsCenter.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. They're online at gotrosonline.com. That is gotrosonline.com. I was talking to my guy, Gant Gotro, a little bit earlier this week, and they've just got incredible deals that are going on in the month of June, and they want you to stop by all month long to score on these incredible deals. You're talking about Hustler Raptor Series, $200 off. Hustler Fast Track Series, $500 off. Listen to this one. The commercial mowers that they've got in stock from Hustler, up to $1,500 off. And hey, on in-stock units, the week of Father's Day, which is coming up, June 15th through the 20th. You stop by, you can get the deals I just mentioned, as well as no sales tax. Incredible deals in the month of June. If you're looking for that new zero-turn mower, check out my friends at Gotros Outdoor Power, Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, and in Gonzales, gotrosonline.com.